Thank you for attending this breakout session. This session is filled with powerful information to help improve your health and empower you. Radio Free 102.3 KJLH. We are you.
Mindful Beauty is a culturally competent mental health intervention developed by a group of African American students at Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. The program is designed to train hairstylists on the signs and symptoms of depression in their clients, who identify as African American females ages 18 to 60 with self-reported mental health disorders. Depression is one of the most common mental illnesses that is long-lasting and recurrent. It has the ability to disrupt and impair an individual's ability to function and cope with daily life and can significantly impact quality of life.
I'm Danielle Campbell, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the KJLH 20th Annual Women's Health Expo. Yay! Yay! So just to be sure that everybody's in the right spot, this is the Mindful Beauty Project, body, mind, and spirit, keeping it together during COVID-19 and this pandemic. What a drag, y'all. It's been quite a change of heart and mind given what we're living through COVID. I wanted to take a quick minute to introduce you all in name, and you could say 2 or 3 quick things about yourself to our audience today. First up, we have Professor Cynthia Davis of Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. With us, we also have Professor Janae Oliver. We also have the illustrious Joy K. Madison, the fabulous Sonia Young Adam, and last but most certainly not least, the effervescent Margot Wade LaDrew. Welcome into the space, ladies. All right.
And our stylist.
Our stylist partner, okay, not to go unnoticed, Miss Dana Nelson. Miss Dana Nelson,
well, hello, how are you?
I want to thank you all for taking the time out today to have this very critical discussion about mental health, Black women, our holistic wellness, and what it means to live and thrive during this new daily reality around COVID-19. I saw that we had a brief clip on some of the things that you guys have been up to over the last year with the Mindful Beauty Project. Let's take a minute and go through, what have you guys been up to, ladies? And anybody can take that question and answer. What have you guys been up to since you were here last year?
Oh my goodness, because last year we had over 200 women in our session, and it was very emotional. And so we were looking forward to being with all of you out there in person, but we're with you virtually. And so since we had the Expo last year, we actually started the Mindful Beauty program, and we've trained 2 cohorts. One we actually did in person, and one we had to pivot and actually do it online, which was very interesting because the first one dealing with it in person, you get to touch and feel. And so doing things virtually, it's not the same, but it was very emotional because a lot of the women, the stylists, were going through things within this whole COVID that's happening right now, because they actually are used to being with so many people. So I know it's been difficult for the stylists. I know Dana could touch on that, but for all of us that's in community outreach, being able to be with people, it's been a little rough for us all. I know for me.
As the coordinating institution of this collaborative with the Kaiser Permanente, Charles Drew, the California Black Women's Health Project, and the Black Beauty Shop Health Foundation, I can say that we have really accomplished a lot in a year and a half. The funding originally became available in the fall of 2018. We put together a training program. Margot went out and identified the stylist and got them to make a commitment to going through this 7-8 week training. Joy stepped on board to be the facilitator of the training. And so the fact that we've trained 12 stylists who now can help women from the community, their clientele, that's saying a lot, given that this is a pilot demonstration program and given that the high rates of mental health and depression that our community experiences, and especially with COVID-19, you can't tell me that people aren't experiencing stress in their lives with this being faced with this pandemic every day. So I just want to commend everybody that we stuck to it. We're almost through, and I think that when we go back and then we evaluate everything that we do, it's going to be some really positive outcomes for not only the stylists, but for our community at large.
Great, thank you for that. And Janae, could you tell us briefly why funding such a critical endeavor was of utmost importance for Kaiser? And then you can also give some context about your role in developing this newness that we call mindful beauty.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. I know you introduced me as a professor for Charles Drew University.
Can you hear okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. But my day job is actually working at Kaiser Permanente. I'm in the community health department. I've been with Kaiser for about 11 years, and over the course of time, we've actually been taking a critical look at mental health and really trying to understand what are some of the barriers and challenges that people in our community are facing. And one of the things that we found is in sort of developing this mental health and wellness initiative was really to look at 3 strategic priorities. And one was specifically around access. We recognize that a lot of people do not have access due to the high cost of mental health care services. Also, just really looking at there not being enough mental health care providers in the community, and especially those that look like us. And then finally, and finally, the stigma. There is a history of a lack of trust in our communities. We heard from a number of our participants who engage us around our community health needs assessment. And we do find that there are gaps in care, but not only are there gaps, but there are also people who have a fear of actually going to access mental health care services. And so when I was a student, as you kind of alluded to, I was working with a team of students, and I want to give a shout out to Victoria Gichohi and also Shania McBride, who were partnering with me on a program development and evaluation course to really look at Black women and mental health. And as we started to look at that project, we were finding some similar trends around many of the things that I've already touched on, which is that access, the stigma, the fear, and all of that. And we decided in talking with, because I actually grew up in a household with a hairstylist, and I was talking to my sister, Maisha, and she was saying how she's kind of like a therapist to many of her clients. But we know, Joy, not to say that she's a therapist, but those trusted conversations and being that confidant is what really allowed me to start thinking and kind of bringing to the team that, maybe there's an intervention that we can do with hairstylists that could train them to look at the signs and symptoms of depression in their clients. From there, it has just really blossomed. I had a chance to engage Margot from the onset through the work that she had been doing with the Black Beauty Shop Health Foundation, and then also just kind of beginning to think about who are the other organizations that are already doing this work and that could make an impact. And so we talked to the California Black Women's Health Project, and I was taking a class with Professor Davis, and she encouraged me to start looking at some grant opportunities because we recognized that it was absolutely fundable. It was a fundable project. This was something that we had seen in community, and I think Professor Davis, because of the work that she had been doing around HIV/AIDS, recognized the value of these non-traditional access points and working with beauty shops and barber shops. And this was just yet another opportunity to kind of engage people and get people connected to health services by looking at depression. So with that, I'm just really proud of the work that everyone has been doing. And it's continuing to grow. So funders out there, please take notes.
Right, come on.
no, this is absolutely tried and true now. We have results. It's been piloted. So your evidence base is here as we sit. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that, Janae. Just speaking about, I guess, and piggybacking on some of what you said here, it's been a tremendous effort over the past year, and it's been, nothing short of a labor of love and getting to know all of you outstanding women and actualizing what your dedication has been to the women you serve, your clients, each other, our community-based partners. And I know, Joy has been our rock during the implementation phase. She is on the ground. She is our guard in the field. Joy, talk to us and the stylist partners about, what your experience has been in working with the collaborative here. And then let's segue into a discussion about women maintaining, mindfulness during this COVID thing that has now become our reality.
We had a lot of tears in our class.
A
lot of tears.
Yes, we did, and I welcome them. I'm so honored. I'm so humbled that the women who participated, the stylists who participated in this program, felt safe and comfortable, and actually even strong enough to let those guards down. That takes a lot of courage and bravery. And I know that oftentimes, particularly for Black women, we equate strength with the ability to hold it all together. Mm-hmm. But it also requires strength to allow yourself to fully be seen. And it was such a pleasure to create a space for the stylists to be able to do that. And also to equip them with tools, techniques, resources, information to support their clients and feeling safe and comfortable doing that as well. This has been such a beautiful experience. Janae, you mentioned your sister who often feels like she is a therapist to her clients. And while, of course, as you mentioned, there's a lot that goes into being a therapist, but I also am clear enough about really the fundamentals of what we bring as mental health professionals. Yes, we bring skills and knowledge and education and all of that. But before we even get to any of that, what we bring as human beings, right? The empathy and the patience and the grace and the, again, creating space for people to feel seen and comfortable and safe, like that you cannot learn in school. And I understand that, again, in the Black community, hairstylists, barbers, they are often what I would call like the first responders, right? The triage, those people who really sort of are in the field. And to your point again, Janae, about the stigma and the accessibility and the affordability of mental health support and resources and treatment isn't always there in our communities for a number of different reasons. And all the stigma that you talked about for why we don't choose to engage even when it is available to us, all of that plays into why then someone like your sister and other stylists, Dana, you as well, I'm sure, can often feel like they are hearing some of the things that are going on in their clients' lives, personally, professionally, within their families, relationships, their health, all of those things. Right? So to be able to facilitate these groups and equip these stylists with information about how to recognize signs and symptoms and to really sort of equip them to fill in the gap and to be a liaison between, that place where their client may be apprehensive about seeking treatment. I don't really know. Knowing that you've already put in the time to build the relationship and gain their trust, and that you could be a source that could say, you know what, I know someone, I can connect you with someone. And for you to sort of be in a position to redirect them to get the service, support, resources, treatment they need is incredibly important. And as a mental health practitioner, I see the value in that. And my ego won't allow me to go, but you're not this, you ain't, I don't care about any of that. My end game is to get you the support you need. And if you need to go through your stylist to feel safe and comfortable to do that, then I am happy to be able to provide your stylist with the tools to recognize or to be able to say, you know what, I may need to follow up, ask a question, dig a little deeper here, as opposed to letting it fly over as just shop talk, right? And recognizing when it needs to go beyond shop talk into something that is, you maybe need some professional support, and I want to guide you in the direction of getting what you need that is culturally competent. that is culturally humble, and that cares about you, the person, not you, just the patient, right? Because that's two different conversations. You are a human being. And we know as Black people how important it is to feel like a person when you walk into the office to get treatment, not just like a number on the list, right? So all of that is important. And it has been an honor to play my part in seeing this vision of the Mindful Beauty Project coming to life.
That's quite the road.
We enjoyed the classes too because it helped us all.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
Joy, you are a clarity coach and have been a practitioner in the field in South Los Angeles for a number of years, right? So when you first learned about the opportunity to train stylists, after training the 2 cohorts, right? You talked about, you know, your willingness and your excitement around being that vehicle, that conduit by which women can connect with stylists and then take it up a notch to get the services that they need for mental health. What has that meant for you as a provider of mental health therapy and support?
Again, to reiterate, like for me, the bottom line is seeing people get the services, treatment, support, and resources that they need. And again, recognizing as a young Black girl who grew up in South Central LA, who played sports and did all those things, understanding the role that people like coaches and stylists and mentors and, you know, people other than our parents, you know, can play in our lives, how important they are to us and how much we trust them and look to them to be a beacon of light in various different ways, recognizing that and knowing that many people will come to their stylist, do come to their stylist every other week or however frequently, and you build that relationship. It becomes intergenerational, right? Like you did my hair and then I brought my daughter to you, and now we have like this bond that is crossing generational lines to be able to leverage that bond. And I don't mean to say this in a like exploitive way, but I mean to say like, I recognize the value and importance and relevance of that bond, and to be able to leverage that as an opportunity to get people into treatment where they otherwise might not even have considered it because of whatever reasons, and to be able to say, hey, let's introduce something that could be really useful and helpful for you through a vessel that you've already developed this sense of trust and commitment and connection to. That is priceless. And so when I heard about the project, I was like, absolutely, absolutely. I want to support this. I want to be a part of this. I want to amplify this. Whatever needs to be done, I am 100% on board. I thought it was a brilliant idea. It is a brilliant idea. And as a mental health practitioner, we recognize, again, Janae, you said there aren't enough of us meaning Black providers.
Yeah.
We recognize that as much as we would want to, we cannot save the world ourselves. So to be able to educate people who are, again, on the front lines and get that support, even not just to the clients, but us as the clinicians, to be able to say, okay, I trust that somebody is out there when I can't be, is also for me a bit of a relief. To know that like we're training what I would see as like an army of people to be able to sort of do what we can't do and reach where we can't reach. That is, to know that is priceless, and to be a part of that is, again, the most humbling, privileged experience that I can have, coming from where I come from and now being where I am.
You know, one of the things that the stylist said that we all know, but you didn't think about it, is that stylists are pretty much with women for every important moment in their life. I mean, the kids are there, they're getting their first hairdo, you know, their graduations, if they're in special events, you know, getting their hair done. They see them get married, you know, bring their kids in, and then sometimes through divorce. So they go full, you know, you don't think about it, but a stylist, and I know Dana can speak on that, seeing probably generations come through, you know, we don't realize, but they're in a woman's most important things that happen in their life.
Yes, we literally share our lives with our clients, and we develop this bond it's almost like a family type of association, or akin to a family, and you are there for good times, bad times, and everything in between. And then when it develops a safe space, and so it's a perfect backdrop to be able to help someone for a mental health issue, or to be able to help them, and guide them to some help. So yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you. So Margot and Dana, tell us about what life has been like during COVID in the salons. How, what have you heard back from other stylists? What have been some of the limitations? What do some of the stylist partners and other women in the salons need during COVID-19 as it relates to mental health and resources?
But Dana can talk to actually being in there in the salons. I know that it was difficult for the stylists, especially the second cohort going through this training. And it's interesting because the first cohort had the training, so I think they could deal with certain things a little better because they had a chance to express and deal with some emotional stuff. And mind you, we graduated our first class on the 20th, but they were talking to their customers in between because they were in the shops. And then the 13th of March, we got shut down. And so then we had to go back and we did our second cohort. And those ladies actually said having this training really saved them, because being locked down and being in the house, and a couple of them were alone. We had one stylist that actually was in the medical industry, and she thought she had COVID. She got tested. She was quarantining while we were on the phone. A lot of different things were happening. And so some of them got back into the shop maybe just like a week, and then they shut down. Some went back right away, but a lot of them, when they said they could open, was really trying to prepare to open. So a lot of the stylists had been talking to people on the phone, checking on their customers, just seeing how they were doing. But Dana actually got a chance to really be in it for the 2 or 3 weeks because they were preparing prior to. So what was some of the stories and the things happening when they first got back?
The first thing that I noticed, which is just the absolute truth, is that there is not one person on this planet that has not been affected in some kind of way. And this training could not have come at a better time, because the first thing that happened when I had to shut down is I was getting so many phone calls, and everybody was telling me about what they were going through. And a couple of people, I was able to give them information for resources, but they all called me to let me know what's going on. We all stayed in contact, and it was a lot. It was a lot. And people are still going through all types of issues, emotional, depression. I'm hearing about people that are afraid to be alone, that don't have any peace. And they're calling me and telling me this. And so I'm constantly, feeding them some of the information that I learned from Joy. And there's a lot. And so we were there. I worked for 6 weeks, and now we're shut down again. So now I'm getting more phone calls, and I'm trying to encourage people and trying to direct them. And so this program did not come. It came at the best time, and I'm sure we're going to need it far into the future, because we haven't seen the effects of what COVID-19 has done to people psychologically. And
I'm just curious, based upon what Dana is saying, since the shops are closed, but they still have this close connection with their clients, they could still be making referrals from their homes for some of these clients who are coming in with mental health issues, and help us in terms of reaching our numbers for our outcomes, because that counts. Whether or not you're in the shop or not, you're still providing a much needed service for your clientele and the community at large.
Yes.
Right. And that's what a lot of them been doing, is just talking on the phone But I know a couple of them went through some personal stuff, their own, and tried to get through it. Because even with all of us on this phone, and for the women that our audience that's listening, I mean, we're all professional women and dealing with stuff, but we all had our own stuff that we were dealing with, you know, from personal stuff to being shut down to the loneliness and not seeing family. And even though we are in a field to deal with certain things that took training, I mean, it took a toll on us, you know, and different women that I spoke to that are what I call high executive professionals that were dealing with some really stressful situations. And then one of the hardest things too is when you have to take your person that's close to you to the hospital and you can't go in with them. You know, Dr. Davis went through that. I had to take my husband to the emergency room. His blood pressure would not go down. It was the most horrifying thing to just be stopped at the door. He going in, they rolling him in. I can't go. You know, you worrying the whole time. It's hard because of the COVID and everything to get through, to even know what's going on, you know, so you can't leave the hospital. You're running back up to the door, or can you check? I mean, it is that was a stressful time, and just thinking about all the people who lost loved ones who couldn't see them. You know, it was so devastating. And just hearing women and talking to people, you know, you kind of get yourself okay, but then you help people, and then you go through your own emotions, you know, and you're on a roller coaster ride.
So Joy, tell us for the women that are in this space, what are some tips and tricks, just some thoughts, some recommendations you may have on maintaining mindfulness and some semblance of totality, of wholeness as we migrate life through COVID? What's the tea?
Man, listen, I so appreciate you, Margot, mentioning that, again, this is a global pandemic and everyone is being impacted. And of course, you know, we look to the people that are typically our stabilizers, right? Who are the ones who guide us through things for the answers. And they like, I've never lived through this either. I don't know either, right? So one thing that has been coming up for me a lot, just because, again, as someone who is trained in this, a professional, but still I'm a person, right? I always say to all my clients, before I'm a therapist, I am a human being. And so I am feeling what I'm feeling and going through what I'm going through, just as you are in the midst of all of this as it unfolds. One thing that comes up for me most immediately is to be with the feelings that are arising. I think, and I actually like to count this as a benefit of the time. Typically, when we have feelings that are coming up, we have to put them on the back burner because things still need to get done. I still got to go to work. I still got to be a parent. I still got to be a partner. I still have to, whatever I do in my community. And while maybe those hats, you haven't had a chance to take them completely off, the moving about town and all the things that typically keep us busy and distracted has been lessened. And so there's an opportunity for some things to rise to the surface, which may be uncomfortable, but they have healing for you if you allow yourself to be with, and I like to make the distinction of being with and not in your feelings, right? Because we'll say, oh, I was in my feelings. Be with your feelings. And the difference, the distinction here, when you are with your feelings, you allow them to arise. And maybe you even get curious about, I wonder what that is about. Where did that come from? Why am I feeling that way today? Right? And you allow yourself to sort of process versus being in them, which can feel overwhelming. And sometimes like you are lost and maybe even drowning, right? And so I like to make the distinction to be with your feelings, to notice them, recognize them, most importantly, without judgment, right? When you feel what you feel, allow it to arise and notice it, recognize it, observe it without judgment. And then maybe get curious about those feelings. So that's the first thing that I like to happen, especially as Black women. Again, we have on our capes, we can't do the things. Our stuff has to get put on the back burner to deal with other people's stuff. this right now is not the time to ignore what you are feeling and what you are going through. Give yourself permission to tend to your own house. Tend to you. This is the time. This is the time. And if no other time, if people cannot respect and honor what you need right now, that is a clear indication of where they get to be on your list of priorities. Because if they can't honor that you have to care for you right now, that gives you an opportunity to say, okay, who is this person to me really? Do they actually care about me right now? When I have to say, you know what, hold on, I need something for me. If they can't respect that, an opportunity to examine sort of where you have placed them on your list of priorities and if there needs to be a shift there. That's the first thing. And the second thing that I like to encourage people to do is to reassess their boundaries. And this is something that I recommend people do anytime there's a big shift in your life. Anytime a big thing shifts, you change careers, you move, a relationship dynamic shifts, whatever, kids go out of the house to college, whatever the big things are that happen in our lives, or even small things, reassess your boundaries. What do I need to feel valued, respected, and safe in my life, in the relationships that I share with people? So settle in, because things are different now. More people are in the house for longer amounts of time together than we're used to. The typical ways in which we cope with things that come up are taken away. Sometimes that's hanging out with our friends. We can't just get together in the ways that we're used to. So a lot of our coping mechanisms and the ways in which we regulate have been disrupted. And so it's important for us to check in again with ourselves and say, what do I need? And then be able to communicate that into the people in your life, especially the people that you're sharing a home with, whom you might not be used to spending this much time with. You know, we're used to, you get off work, you have a couple hours together at the end of the day before you go to bed. Now it's like I wake up and you right here, and I'm eating lunch and you right here, and I'm going to bed and you right here. And it's like, yo, I need a minute. So dating, facial boundaries, time boundaries, physical boundaries. It's okay to say, I need a break.
I need some space
from you. And it doesn't mean I don't care about you or that I don't like you. I'm just not used to you being, I call it your pocket person. Now they just in your pocket all the time. You're right here all the time.
What is that?
It's too much. So give yourself permission. Yeah, give yourself permission to say, you know what, I just need, when I close my computer, because the thing is, it's like, even with scheduling, right, work, I've noticed that, like, and this is on me, I will take it, I will 100% own this, but you think, oh, I don't have commuter time, I don't have this, I don't have that, so you think you can just jam your calendar with a bunch of things because all you're doing is clicking the next Zoom link, right? So it's not that big of a deal. You need a break. Yeah, you need a break. So people, you know, you might close your computer and people are like, oh, you off work, so you free. No, I'm not free. I'm not free. I'm not available. I'm not ready. Like, Boy, I need a moment.
I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. There's been a couple occasions since I've been here stuck at home since March the 9th, working out of my house, where because of back-to-back Zoom meetings and other kind of meetings, I've literally sat down at this table and didn't move for 8 hours, only maybe to get up to go to the bathroom. Yes. Do you know physiologically what that does to your body and what people need to be doing, given that we have this different lifestyle now and we're just in front of the computer all the time on these Zoom calls, what we need to be doing if working at a house, out of our homes in this situation, because this might go on for several more months.
Yes. And I have jokingly said, I am the CEO of my company. I'm the facilitator. I am the friend. I am the therapist. I'm all those things from this very seat that y'all see me sitting in right here. Right. Like everything I do in my life has happened at this desk. And so to answer your question about even just physiologically, there's a couple of things that come to mind. One, and this is something we've talked about since office jobs have become more of the norm in general in the last couple of decades, but just sitting down for that amount of time and what that does to your back and your hips and all that compression, right? So getting up to move every hour for a couple of minutes is important. Stretch out, get your blood flowing, get some oxygen in. That's very, very important to just the development of our bodies, because our muscles just like you work out, if you work out for a set amount of time, over a period of time, you expect to see the muscles grow bigger, right?
Yeah.
So our muscles are very adaptable. So if you sit down for long periods of time, your muscles will begin to adapt to that. So your hip flexors will be tight, your glutes will be loose. Those things will happen.
Will be loose. What?
Yeah. Yeah, those things will happen. So your body will begin to adapt to the lack of movement, right? And your heart is a muscle, so it needs to be worked. And that requires you to get your heart rate up. So working out is going to be even more important now for the heart health, but also for managing and regulating your mood. We know there's lots of research and science that says exercise is a great mood booster because it releases those what we call feel-good hormones, right? And so that's important. But even especially your eyes as well. Right? Looking into this blue light or the light that's emanating from your screen, you do that and then you trade that off, then you pick up your cell phone and you're back at it over there. And you're constantly.
I think I'm losing my sight
now.
Yeah,
it's important. I
have a lot of problems. Hey, but you know, one thing too is I was looking at a session yesterday and the lady was saying that Zoom, all these Zoom meetings, is making people think about the fact that we're still in quarantine and everything that's going on. And one of the things that they suggested is to cut some of the Zoom meetings and have some more conference calls. Because when you have a conference call on the phone, it's just like kind of being, you would always have conference calls. People wouldn't Zoom as much because, you see people. So one of the things they were saying was, maybe start trying to just have, if you don't have to do a Zoom, do a call like you would on the phone. And then that too would help, Dr. Davis, where you could get up and walk around with your headphone on, to be able to talk to somebody. But I didn't think about that. But every time you Zoom, especially when you Zoom in now all the time, it's reminding us of where we are at this point.
That's a great point too. And this is something I read that I want to point out that I think many people experienced early on that we may have adapted to, but I think it's important to recognize because what I don't want to do is begin to adapt to things that are not great for us, right? Because our bodies, we are very adaptable beings, creatures. Right. And so we will start to conform to our circumstances, which are not necessarily a good thing. So one thing that happens, to your point about the video, Margot, is that when we see each other and we're talking, our brains are computing one thing because I can see you, but the input that I get physiologically from actually sharing space with you, like that energetic feeling, I'm not getting that. Right. So the information that my brain is getting versus the information that my body is getting is misaligned. Right. That confusion causes us to work very hard to reconcile why does my brain want to think that we're sharing space, but my body is not getting the same input to understand what that shared space would actually typically feel like. So that hard work, a lot of people were experiencing early on, and you may remember, why am I so tired at the end of the day? Like, I am exhausted. Because your brain and body are working overtime to try to reconcile this misalignment of information that they're getting, where your eyes are computing that I see you and so you're here, but your body is like, no, but I don't feel the way we feel each other in a physical space. And that sort of incongruence of information was causing us to work so hard that it was literally zapping us of our energy. And so again, we may have adapted to that by now, but that's not something that we necessarily want to allow ourselves to adapt to. So to be mindful of that, and to your point, Margot, to be able to maybe do conference calls, one, I think it would keep things shorter because it's like, I'm not getting ready to just hold this phone all day. Right. Two, it takes away that piece where there's that incongruence. Right. Between seeing you but not feeling you. Yeah. So that could help too with that.
I think you made a great point, Joy. I can personally attest to the fact that I am on Zoom overload and working on global team. Maybe I'm up at 5 and I'm down by 8, zooming up and down all day. So I think it's good to hear you say that and put, I guess, some words to these sentiments that we've been feeling, because it seems like I'm even more exhausted without the commute on the 405.
We are. Our minds.
It's crazy.
Well, remember yesterday I was telling you guys when we were preparing for this, I heard about it's called Heartbreak Syndrome. So a lot of people are dying. That's what it is. And when you hear, like, when two people have been together for years and the wife or the husband dies after 60-something years and they're older, they just don't want to be. That's what happened to Debbie Reynolds. She had Heartbreak Syndrome when her daughter died before her. Yeah, so they've been doing research. So a lot of people now are having Heartbreak Syndrome. I'm like, it's because of all the things, they're heartbroken from not being able to be with people, to see their families. A lot of people are thinking they don't know what's on the other side. You know, you're constantly doing, but then one thing people need to do is stop looking at the news 24/7. I know that. Because my husband told me he had to take me for a drive. He said, I think we need to go. I think you kind of lose me. But looking at CNN and Fox and all that, you think the world is going to end tomorrow. I mean, so we have to get that off me. True. I look at it to make sure we still here and going, and then I have to cut it off.
I like to say there's a thin line between being informed and then being insane.
Yes.
Right? And you need to know what is your line? How much of this can I consume so that I feel like I'm in the know before it crosses over the line and I'm tripping and I'm extra anxious because we don't know what's on the other side. And we're not just heartbroken about the relationships, we're also heartbroken about the activities and just the way we know our own lives to be. It's like, what is this? What is this life?
I know.
You add to that some of the dialogue in the zeitgeist about, this overlay of racial justice and trauma that is now, burst to the surface and that lives in the background of our lives and confronts us daily. Can you talk about what that means when you add into this whole discussion about living amid a pandemic, these racial, this racial tension that's in the background? A lot of us have confronted these microaggressions for years and years and years. But it's like we're in this space where we can't hide from them anymore.
I'm with an angry black man.
Out loud, right? So when you add to that what happened with George Floyd, Tony McDade, other folks in this world, and the out and out like brutality that we see against our brothers and sisters daily, just against our people, we now have to add to that being black. How do we adapt? Because I know there are some of us who are struggling. I got my curls out today, but I'm also not in the office. Right? So how do you adjust? How can we say? Like, how can we live?
Yeah, woo, that is a big old loaded question. Yeah, because if I can be honest, it's still very disorienting for me to turn on the news and see white journalists having these long 4 and 5 minute dialogues and monologues about racial injustice that we've been screaming about literally for generations.
Right.
And that experience has been denied, missed, and belittled. And so to hear them be like, no, this is true, it's not fair, and it's been not fair, it's like, what? So it's a sense of being like
that exact same face you just had, like this.
Yeah.
Dr. Davis probably
gaslighting
much of it over your years, Dr. Davis, with all of this racial injustice and all the work that you've been doing.
I didn't hear the question.
I said you probably seen so much over the years with all the work that you've been doing, for the injustices for our people, and especially this health.
I'm feeling what Danielle is feeling, because it's like at 71 and having experienced all of this structural and institutionalized racism from a child and having to cope and adapt to it, to see these full page ads on the LA Times from these corporations, or we now see the light.
Black Lives Matter.
We're going to do something to change the system. I say, for real.
Right, for the next year.
Where have you been?
Right.
It's really disheartening, because these people know what's been going on.
Yeah, they know what's been going on.
Because of white privilege, nobody has wanted to address it. And now the community and the people on a global level are saying, we ain't taking it no more, and there's going to have to be some change. So we have got to find a way. How are we going to be able to sustain this global movement for structural change and social justice? That's my concern, you know, because I have passed the baton. At my age, I have passed the baton. I'm turning it over to the younger generation. I have full faith in them that they can get it done, but they still need our support as elders to learn from our experiences. And we want to make sure that this is it for us, that we don't have to continue this struggle for another generation or another 100 years. We've got to deal with it now and get rid of it now.
That's you, Janae, and Danielle.
And Joy.
You're right. You're right.
And Danielle. It's on you.
I'm the senior age now.
You're trying to cop out, Marco. I think you got a couple more years left. You're
Yes,
right.
you do. I don't see you retiring anytime soon. But you know, I just want to add to that because I think what Dr. Davis is saying is a critical point. Because while all of this is going on, we have a number of people who are still contending with a lot of the structural.
Okay, we can't hear you, Janae.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was just saying that we still have people that are contending with the structural racism and the residual kind of impacts of that structural racism, even right now. There are people that have been laid off of their jobs, still don't have access to food. So even though we're having this narrative of like, we want to fight and there are still people that are struggling in community.
Yeah.
I live in South LA.
Look right like
now, and, you know, I see people, you see homeless people. You know, it's not something that we have to pull up these data reports and try to figure out what is happening in community. We see it live in full effect every day. And one of the things that I know I'm going to put on my Kaiser Permanente hat is that when we did the last community health needs assessment, we actually identified structural racism and marginalization in that report. And that was really because a lot of the community members said, you know, it's one thing to talk about, you know, the needs that are in this community, but we really have to define and we have to name the issue. And that issue is racism. Yeah. You can't really get around that. You can't really get around it. And so I'm also thinking about, you know, as these stylists are interacting and engaging with their clients who are picking up the phone and saying, I just lost my job. I haven't been unemployed in X number of years, but I'm struggling now. What do I do? So there is also this social need component that I think we have to understand. And that is the intersection between depression, because a lot of times it's economic issues of why people are dealing with depression, right? I lost my job. I don't know how I'm going to feed my child tomorrow. All of that is connected. And so I'm looking at Dana saying, you know, are you getting those phone calls and how are you kind of being able to support your clients? Yeah.
Phone calls for that, and they're also expressing how it's making them feel and how they're developing mental health issues because of it. And prevalent. It's just this morning. I was speaking to one of my clients, and she was telling me that she's afraid to be alone. She keeps watching the news and she's seeing everything that's going on. Our world is this, and she says, and everything. And then she was telling me about a friend of hers, but everything that she spoke to me about showed me that she had anxiety. And so I was talk to her about having anxiety and how that works and how she needs to get help for it. Just this morning.
Yeah, I know. I'm right there. I can view that.
Referral right there.
There you go.
I'm saying that's going to count. I'm thinking of the numbers.
I'll give you final numbers because they did. But you know, one for me too, you know, I haven't made it a secret that my mom, you know, suffered from mental illness. You know, you start dealing with a lot of feelings, and you know, at the age, because I just turned 59, and I was like, Lord, I don't want to start a new career. What if I do special events? Okay, my forte is special events, in the field, communicating, dealing with people, and I don't want to be on social media, Zoom every day. So I had to come to grips because I was really emotional, crying, dealing with stuff, and then having to help other people. You know, so you put on that hat and you suck it up and you talk to people, you deal with them, you help them. Because I have a lot of friends too, some of them that have been alone by themselves since this happened. And so, you know, one of the things we did was cook Mother's Day and Memorial Day. That's the first one, right? And I put some drinks in the yard and they had them come. They picked their plate up and they had masks on. And one girl said, Margot, thank you so much. She said, I just needed the interaction with people. I mean, she'd been out in the valley by herself, you know, and that's hard. And you don't have any family, you know, and not nobody in the house with you too. That's been really rough. I found on a lot of people, just solitude.
Right.
But some people say, hey, it's good for me because I don't like to. But for the majority of us, especially if you're in community outreach or any kind of sales or service field, you know, you just thrive on people.
And to your point, Margot, and going back to something I said earlier, what I'm anticipating, again, as a mental health practitioner, is that we have, in this time, things have had the opportunity to come to the surface. And that it's uncomfortable, we don't like it. And I'm anticipating that when things do sort of open back up again, maybe people are going back into offices, going back into engaging in their communities and with their social circles, that once we know what's going on, if we attempt to go back to those same ways of avoiding, same ways of coping, same ways of managing, and they no longer work, because we were using those things to suppress, and now those things have come to the surface. If we don't get the support that we need, if we don't hear Dana say, you know what, that sounds like anxiety, right? If we don't hear that and choose to regularly schedule a program in whatever capacity we're able to do that, something that's called cognitive dissonance, which is essentially a misalignment between the reality and your, ideal, what you would hoped would be the truth, right? And when there's that gap in between, and now you are aware of that gap because you can no longer hide from the things that have risen to the surface, I suspect that there's going to be an even bigger boom in mental health crises, because people are no longer going to be able to. What comes to mind is the Solange song, I tried to drink it away, I tried to shop it away, I tried to do these things. A lot of people were using certain mechanisms as a means of avoiding. And now that these things have come to the surface, if you don't address them and go head forward with, I need to get the service support treatment, when you try to go back to those old ways, they're not going to work anymore. Or you're going to require more to get the same result. And I am anticipating that there's going to be an even bigger spike in the need for mental health services and support.
We need you even more than now, Joy. So you get that calendar, girl, with some balance. But to your point about your expectation about needing additional services and health practitioners, Professor Davis, can you tell us about some of the resources that are available to folks who may need them?
Well, besides us partnering with the LA County Department of Mental Health, you have the California Black Women's Health Clinic, Health Project. You have UMA Free Clinic, which is taking referrals from our project. And if you go to the Mindful Beauty Project website, which we're going to post at the end of this session, we have a program brochure in there. And on the last page of the brochure, it lists over 15 different community-based sites where you can go to seek mental health services. Some of them including, and they're all in SPA 6, Barbara and Floyd, D.D. Hirsch, Drew Child Development Center, Kedron Community Health Center, Augustus Hawkins Family Mental Health Center, Compton Family Mental Health Center. So there's no excuse to say, well, I didn't know where to go. And then through our program also, we have resource guides that we can send to you. I picked up a couple hundred of them from the Department of Mental Health several months ago. And so we have those available to give to people as well. We plan to disseminate, we have disseminated some of them to the stylists. So there are resources out there in the community. You can go to our Mindful Beauty website to communicate with us, and we can get back in touch with you. So again, don't fear that you're out there by yourself, because we're there to provide that safety net for you.
Mm-hmm. And Danielle.
Yes, Margot.
Well, I wanted to say one thing that Joy had touched on about being with your feelings, that with the women that's listening, to really do that, because, you know, your mind can play a lot of tricks on you. And, you know, whatever you're feeling it. If you need to cry or release it or talk to somebody, do it. Don't let it sit there and fester, because it builds up and you start getting all this tension and things are happening. And again, to the point where Black women are supposed to be so strong, you know, we have to release things and get help too. This is a different day. And sometimes it's just about sharing with someone to listen. Not necessarily that person don't have to give a lot of information. Sometimes you just need to talk to somebody to release, especially those that are there. So I would say to the women to definitely be with your feeling and try to feel it. And if you really feel there's something going on, to seek some help. You know, there are hotlines that you can call to, you know, just to talk to somebody. And sometimes you just need to talk through it to get yourself back in check, because I just feel like we're all out of alignment. You know, our whole world is out of alignment. So, you know, just, you know, for you ladies, just don't think that you're by yourself, you know, because everybody's going through something right now, because it is a different world and we don't know where we're going to be from one week to another, because things are changing. And not to dwell on it, I think one thing too, because we tend to want to plan everything out. And all we can do is, and one thing I would say too is, if you on the internet or do things, maybe take some classes and do some things that you're interested in. You know, like I'm trying to get better in Microsoft Suite, understand it. You know, I know how to do certain things, but I think we can utilize some time, if we can, to do something positive for betterment of ourselves, as opposed to just sitting and dwelling on things that we can't control. And just to try to be prepared for whatever happens, and mentally be prepared, so that we can roll with the punches, because nobody knows what's going to happen.
I'd like to say that I know that going forward, things are going to get worse, and people's emotional response to it is going to get worse. And so I think the biggest benefits of Mindful Beauty is that it's within the community, because most people live and they're born, they live and they die within a 10-mile radius. They stay in their communities. A lot of my clients, they don't like to venture out past their community. So one of the biggest benefits is that we have all these facilities within our community that these ladies could be referred to. And so I'm excited about being able to, you know, to help to refer people to these places. I'm excited.
I wanted to say something real quick as an adjunct to what Dana and Margaret were just saying. To me, it's about self-care. Say if you can't get to that clinic, what can you do while you're locked in your house?
Yes.
Know what your triggers are. Avoid people or situations which cause you stress. Try to exercise daily for at least 30 to 60 minutes, even if it's walking around in your house or in your backyard. Watch what you put in your body. Eat healthy, fresh foods. Drink plenty of water. Meditate, yoga, read, garden if you're able to. Don't sit at your workstation, which we talked about earlier, for 8 hours straight without getting up and moving. Avoid smoking and excessive drinking. Avoid white sugar. And as my grandmother used to say, prayer changes things.
Yes.
All right now.
That's just some simple things that you can do right inside your own home.
And also pamper yourself, because what I had to do is I started doing a bath once a week, like the Calgon thing. Man, I have my oils in there burning. I got the candles. My husband said, okay, you get ready to hit it. The music, the spa music, my towel. And I mean, it really takes you to a different place. And a lot of people, because we were always rushing, you know, I had really stopped taking hot bubble baths, just rushing all the time, taking a shower every now. But I will not go back to I have to take a bath once, twice a week. But I also have to take a bath just for the mental. I do it for relaxation and make myself think I'm in the spa, you know, because just to do something. And, you know, and I think Joy, you had said one time about instead of rushing to put your lotion on in 2 or 3 minutes, take 15 minutes, you know, and lotion your body down, you know, spend some time with you. And it really does make us feel better.
But Margot, before we segue into Joy and Janae, I need to know, what is this Calgon thing you're talking about? Did I miss it?
Girl, you know what? I even took, have you seen those little heaters that look like fireplaces? Girl, yes. I set my bathroom up. I put the heater on the toilet so I could think I had a crackling fireplace. Oh. I had a glass of wine. I had my pillows. I had candles all over the place and the spa music. And I was just in heaven. And I set the quarterback on, and I was in there, probably in the tub for an hour and a half. And my husband knocking, "You all right?" And a couple of times, I even gave my little doggy a bath and rubbed her down, so she laying on the towel, drying while I'm in there. I said, "We having a girls' day out in the bathroom." But that's what I'm talking about. And when I tell you I come out, it's just like a whole different world. It really is. And I think if the women, if you could spend one day with you like that, an evening in the midweek, Wednesday or Thursday. So I'm telling all the ladies right here, my teammates, I want to hear back next week. I want y'all to have that spa.
Got homework, y'all.
Yes. And it makes a difference.
Okay, all right. Joy, Janae, let's hear it. Some closing comments. I mean, what are your thoughts after our discussion today? What's that?
Go ahead, Janae.
Well, I was actually hoping that Joy would lead us in like a little breathing exercise before we leave. But so I'll let you go after me. But I just want to share that, you know, I'm really proud of this collaborative and the many hairstylists who step forward to say, you know what, I'm willing to be trained, right? Because I think a lot of times we think that we have the answers. I've been being a hairstylist for so many years. I know what I'm doing, right? But there are always things that we can learn, and there's new skills that we can actually adopt. And I think to you, Dana, it's very laudable, the work that you've been doing with your clients. So I just want to acknowledge you and the many hairstylists that went through the program. So on behalf of Kaiser Permanente, we want to thank you. We have funded this program now for 2 years, and hopefully there'll be new opportunities for this to continue to grow. I also want to share that, you know, as a community, I know we were kind of talking about some of the trials and tribulations. We always talk about those trials and tribulations, but we are also a very resilient people, and I just want to kind of affirm us in that space. We need to build more resilience, but we are absolutely just, you know, naturally and organically a resilient people. And we are also innovative. And so this is an example of that innovation. I think we're going to continue to innovate and find ways to connect those dots. I know that, you know, virtual mental health care services is on the rise, right? Like virtual health care in general. Yeah. We're doing a lot of that at Kaiser Permanente. So people are scheduling appointments now more than ever. And even you know, before we would say, well, you know, older generations are not going to use, you know, online tools. But you know what? We've been forced to really kind of get into that space, right? So I think we're going to see a lot more connectivity through, and I know we have to balance that, Joy, with not being too stuck at the computer. But we're going to see a lot more of the connections being made between mental health care services and creating that increased access and our community. And so, you know, this is just one of the ways that we're beginning to see that. And it's been a little while since I've seen you all. It's been great to see you all and engage with you today. And I'm just really proud to have been part of the beginning stages of this collaborative and then kind of seeing it all come into fruition. So kudos to Mindful Beauty. And the website address, I'm just going to throw it out there real quick. www.mindfulbeautycollaborative.org. www.mindfulbeautycollaborative.org. So,
and we will have it on the screen at the
closing of
this for all of you guys to see and some other resources as well.
Take a look, visit us, join us, drop a comment, share the website address. Joy, to Janae's point, lead us in some discussion and then close out the space.
With some breathing exercise.
Yes, well, thank you, ladies, all for joining on this call today. As Janae said, it's been beautiful to see you, speak with you, hear your stories, check in, and hear your tips. Thank you, Dr. Davis, for that beautiful list of things we can do right at home. That's so important to know that our resources are not always outside of and beyond ourselves. Oftentimes, they are right there within us, and that we get to tap in. It is our right and it is our duty to do that. So thank you for that beautiful reminder. Thank you, Dana, for the work you're doing and continue to do in the community with your clients and just being a beautiful ambassador of the Mindful Beauty Project. Thank you, Margot, for being just the person who goes out and finds the sisters who participates in the program, knowing that there's so many stylists out there and choosing the right ones who will not only commit to, being a part of the program, but will commit to the work of serving in the community with the information that they gain and garner from the program is hugely important. So thank you for being such an intricate and important role in that. And then, of course, thank you, Danielle, for always just sort of being the glue that keeps us all together. You stay with sort of your hands in each of the pots, and we know that, we all know wearing multiple hats can be a challenge, but you do so with grace. And we just really, really appreciate that. Yes. Come on. And Janae, of course, for being one of the, just the brains behind this project and the vision for even thinking of such, again, a brilliant program. I mean, how has this not been done before? We don't know, but you have been blessed to be the vessel to bring it forth, and we are grateful for that. And so, ladies in the audience, thank you for joining us so much. We appreciate you. We hope that this has been a learning experience. We hope that you have enjoyed kikiing and giggling with us in our little time together, and that we would love to close you out now with some deep breathing. This is something that I love to do. I close our sessions out with it. I'm going to do deep breathing and a combination of that with also affirmations. And so if it is accessible and available and appropriate for you, I'm going to ask that you close your eyes, take your right hand and place it over your heart so you can feel the beat of your heart as it pumps blood of life through your body. And then I'm going to ask you to take your left hand and place it over your belly. And you can feel the breath of life rise and fall as you inhale and exhale. And we're going to take a few deep breaths. I'm going to ask you to affirm yourself. So as you breathe in for 4 counts, listen to these words and repeat them either in your mind or out loud. Breathe in through your nose. And you're going to say, I am releasing fear and doubt and living my full potential.
I am releasing fear and doubt and living my full potential.
Good, and exhale. And as you exhale, just feel yourself getting grounded in your seat. This sense of grounding can represent a sense of safety and security and stability. So feel yourself solid in your seat. Inhale again through your nose. And you're going to repeat, I am aligned with the creator of all things.
I am the creator of all things.
Good, and release. And again, you are affirming yourselves, believing these things to be true. Inhale. And you will say, I am whole, mind, body, and spirit.
I am whole, mind, body, and spirit.
You're going to release. And then you're going to do one more inhale through your nose. You're going to say, I am living a life of prosperity.
I am living a life of prosperity.
Good, and release. And again, take a moment here as you continue to breathe in and out through your nose and mouth, scanning your body, noticing where you might feel any sense of tension, tightness, stiffness, or soreness. And use the breath to release that. Drop your shoulders, release your jaw, drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth, uncurl your eyebrows. Notice any stiffness or tightness in your back or hips. Just feel your body. Continue to root down in your seat. Be reminded of the safety, security, and stability that is available to you at all times. And when you are ready, you may open your eyes and return to the present moment, releasing your hands into your lap and feeling a sense of calm and peace fill and cover and lift and guide you from this moment and for all moments to come.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Mindful
Yes.
beauty.
Yes.
Woo.
Every participant who has joined us today, and thank you again to KJLH for allowing us in the space. We appreciate you all, and until next time, we are through.
The KJLH 20th Annual Women's Health Expo at KJLHradio.com. Presented virtually by RastAfri and Radio Free KJLH.